Hey folks, it's a pretty early Saturday morning today. It's about 8 o'clock. Crickets are still chirping, all that stuff. So I thought I'd release a little update um, to make sure people know I'm still alive, because I haven't really posted anything in a while. Just an update of what's going on with the projects and stuff. I got the olds back. I don't think I mentioned it in my last video, but I did actually end up taking this car to work and having one of the carburetor professionals work on it, and a whole bunch of stuff ended up being wrong with it. The timing was way too high. It was like 30 degrees before whatever the acronym is. It was the distributor was loose. There was no vacuum going to my primary metering rods on the carb, so it was full rich all the time, and the float height was too low. So it caused a hard start when cold due to the float height. It caused too much fuel being used during driving, which is why I didn't notice the float height low while driving, because it was flooding it. And then it was causing a hard start when warm because of all the gas that was going into it, and because of the timing. So it would crank slow and it would crank extended because of all those problems. So all that stuff is fixed, sort of. I still think it might be getting a little too much fuel. I don't know why, but it still starts hard when it's warm. You turn it off and let it sit for like a minute or two, and you try starting it again, it'll start right up like it's supposed to. But you let it sit for 10 minutes or so, and then try to start it, and it won't start up like it's supposed to. It'll kind of crank, for 5-6 seconds, and then start up at low idle, and you kind of gotta give it a little gas to get it to idle up again, which isn't right. And I spent $200 on this repair, and the fact that it's still got problems is kind of irritating to me. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to crank up the idle speed a little bit, because he said he adjusted it to 750 in park. There's no way, because this thing is it's idling slower than that green Mercury there, and that thing is set to 600, and it idles pretty slow, but it's what it's supposed to be. There's no way this is at 750. I think he must have fumbled it or something. Maybe it's at 450 or 550, but I'm going to set this at 600 too, because that's about right for a small block. So that's what's going on with this. I'll let you know what it was actually set at, because I don't believe that he set it to 750. What's going on with the Comet here is I was bored, and I thought, why not try to get a little kinks worked out. I fixed the exhaust leak, and I replaced both fuel filters, the one in the tank and the one on the carb, and checked for blockages in the line, blew it out, that kind of stuff, and there was no blockage. The filter in the tank was fairly dirty, but it wasn't terrible, and then the filter on the carb, obviously you can't check that because it's not a clear filter. But I replaced both of them, put the sending unit back in, and of course I didn't replace the O-ring, because I thought, why buy a new one if you can just reuse the old one? Don't do that, guys, because now I got a gas leak. So I had to buy a new O-ring anyway, and I ordered it because you can't buy them in the store, and it'll be here like tomorrow or something. So I'll get that done. As for the carb, a lot of stuff happened here in the engine bay. I broke off a manifold bolt, so it's being held on by an exhaust. What do you call that? C-clamp now. It's called an exhaust clamp. That's cranked down as tight as it will go, and I've got Loctite on it, and it doesn't leak, because I started it yesterday and it doesn't leak, so that's good, I guess. But I couldn't drill out that bolt, and I couldn't weld it because you couldn't get penetration, because it snapped off flush with the head, and I got sick of trying. I spent like 4 or 5 hours trying to weld nuts onto it. There's all my nuts. I spent a long time trying to drill it out with various different drills and taps and all that stuff. It just was irritating me, so I just clamped it, and it works, so it works, right? I reset the float height to see if I could get rid of the hesitation, and I overcorrected, and it's way too high now, and it's leaking gas out the inlet. So now I've got to take the air horn off again and reset that float height again. Hopefully I get it perfect this time, right in between where it was before and where it is now. And then also the choke, I tried to replace my heat riser tubes, but the new one that I had was too small and too short, so it didn't even reach this part right here. But not only that, but if you got it into here, it was loose, or it was loose on the heat stove, on the manifold. I bet you it wouldn't have been loose in here, but it was loose on the heat stove, so it wouldn't. It would just leak, and it wasn't gonna help anything. So then I tried to install a manual choke, and that didn't work either because the manual choke apparatus sticks out of here by about that far. And then of course you put the air cleaner back on, and the way that it sits on here, it was hitting that because there was just like that much clearance between the cap of this and the air cleaner. Just barely sits on there with just enough clearance that you can make that. So if you add anything out here, it's not going to work. So I couldn't do that. Wasted a whole day setting that up because I was an idiot, and I drilled a hole in the dash and I got it all set up. And then I went to up here and then realized it wasn't going to work. So I tried, drilling a hole in it and just going directly through the cap. And of course that caused a vacuum leak, and it was just a nightmare. So no choke for now. I'm probably going to end up taking it to work and having the same guy fix my choke. Hopefully that's simple enough for him. He won't screw that up. It still starts without a choke. It's warm enough outside that you don't need the choke now, but once it starts getting a little colder, you're going to need a choke. Yeah, that's all I've got going on the comment right now. Runs. Doesn't run great, but it runs. So, yeah, I don't think I'll have another video coming out for a while, because I just gotta fix that idle issue on the olds, fix the problems with this, and then I guess then I'm gonna start working on the Mercury out there. I did fix my check engine light on the Lincoln. I don't know if I ever mentioned that it had one, but the DPFE sensor for the EGR was busted, and apparently that's a common-ish problem on Fords, because the guy at the auto parts store said he just did his on his girlfriend's car, so I guess they're common to go, but it wasn't that bad. It was kind of a pain to get to. It took about an hour, but it wasn't terrible. So now that runs reliably and doesn't stall, and there's no check engine light, so it's a win-win-win with that one. I just got to get a win-win with this and the olds. Anyway, I'll leave you now so you can enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.